And then here we go. Recording, yay. And I'm just gonna turn around to make sure I can get a good view. No. There we go. Okay. Oh, and it's 7. Okay. So, hi everybody. We are doing the 3-onion cooking class, and we are featuring 3-onion dip mix. Now, we're not going to make it like a dip because there is so many other things you could do with it, and a lot of people just kind of use dip mixes, but we're going to use the dip mix in different ingredients because really it's a spice blend, and there's a recipe on the back for the dip mix, and I do use this as my #1 dip mix for veggie dips or veggie trays. I really do, but I just actually use my Epicure more for cooking than I do for dip mixes. It just started as a dip mix blend, and maybe marinara and poco picante, and then now Epicure has expanded in 24 years to actually have a lot more recipes rather than just dips. So we've highlighted 3-onion, and we have a dip mix, but I thought we'd start off with an easy one. So we're just gonna actually have this, and then we're gonna add it to cream cheese. So you know when you get flavored cream cheese, you can get like herb and garlic, things like that, and you're constantly buying different flavors, right? So you're buying different flavors of cream cheese, but somebody in the house likes this, some guest likes this. So the best part is that when you have plain cream cheese and then you have a 3-onion dip mix, you can put that together. But if you have this and then you have a different dip mix, now you have another cream cheese spread as well. So that goes with dip mixes as well as cream cheese spreads. So it's going to be as easy as this. Hopefully you guys have this softened, but I have some tricks up my sleeve if you have not softened it. So you're going to open up your cream cheese, doesn't matter what kind, just as long as it's plain, low fat, regular fat. I just whip things, by the way. I just whip them into my sink and then I clean up later. So I love this. Old fashioned, it used to be like a little kind of weird envelope. Now these cream cheese packages actually open up the top. I don't know if anybody's noticed this about the new way of cream cheese bricks. If you have a container, that's okay as well. So we're gonna have cream cheese. Okay, you're gonna pull that open. If it's not softened, I'm gonna show you, but I just pull that open. I'm gonna put that into my bowl. That's it, okay? And then I always just throw that there. You're gonna take your dip mix, and I like putting it on top, and that makes it stick more to the cream cheese rather than trying to get it from the bottom. A lot of people do that. So you're just gonna, you can actually shake it. A lot of people go, why isn't it, they're all in shakers? It's because there's a different blend of ingredients. So what ends up happening is you do want to scoop it out because there's some that are big chunks, some that are smaller bits. So to get all the goodness, if you were to kind of use it like a shaker, some of the big parts might stay in there more than the little bits. So it's always good if you want, shake it if you can. And then we're gonna do 1 tablespoon. So the other difference is, and by the way, 1 brick is about 1 cup. It's a little bit more, but this, when it's not baking, you don't have to be exact. So it's awesome. So I have this kind of cool tool. It's a 4-in-1. So that's a tablespoon, teaspoon. You flip it on the back, you got a 1/2 teaspoon as well as a 1/4 teaspoon. And these always fit in the jars. So super cool. But if you have 1 tablespoon, so you're gonna grab your tablespoon. And stop me, anybody, just unmute yourself and stop me if you're like, whoa, 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 I'm not there yet. So hopefully I don't go too fast, but I'm just gonna put in 1 tablespoon, that's it. And then I'm gonna just leave that there because we're gonna need the 3-onion for a lot more things. If you want, take a fork. So we'll grab a fork. I'm gonna be taking kind of like a potato masher, what we call it the meat separator. And I'm just gonna show you how nice and easy it is. You can take a meat separator, you can take forks, you can take a potato masher, but sometimes it has to be soft. But I like this because it's just 3. A potato masher might not get through it as well if it's really hard. So anything, I kind of prefer a fork, or you can even use a knife. And so then I'm just actually gonna toss it and then turn it. So hopefully you guys can see that. And then I'm actually just gonna get the chunks into smaller chunks. So you only need to set your cream cheese out for about maybe 30 minutes to get it this soft and kind of malleable. So I like doing this just to get the big chunks away. And then I usually take a fork. So I just like this, and it really does work wonders to actually, I use it in my chili too, this meat separator. Okay, pull that off. I like it because it's only in 3 big globs. What I do is I set that off. And if you want, there's dip spreaders that they have out there, but I find a fork really does work best just once you get those big chunks done. If you just want to go to town and use a fork, especially if it's softened, you're just going to put the 3 onion dip mix and make sure you get all the little bits on the bottom of the bowl. You're going to mush it together. No joke. Mush it together. You now have your 3 onion or onion flavored cream cheese. You're going to make sure that you see all those colors and it's evenly distributed. So you're going to have to press with your fork to kind of get through everything. And once you see, if you see like a big clear streak with no spices in it, you're going to want to kind of just push some of the spices into that, because we really do want a really nice blend of flavors. You don't want to have like regular cream cheese and then 3 onions. So you're just going to mix it really well. The softer it is, the more that kids can help out, or people. Like, for example, I have some issues disability wise. So the softer it is, the better it is for my wrist and my hand as well. So it's less work if you soften it a little bit. You're just going to put it like that. Going to kind of wipe it around. We're going to get that going. You can use this immediately on like your bagels if you want, you know, even kind of like a avocado toast, but you can put it on toast. There's a lot of things you can do with this. Even when it calls for cream cheese in a savory dish, you've already added and layered the flavor in. So you're just going to kind of wipe the dip mix in. And here's another tip about the dip mixes. They are great immediately because they add that flavor. But what I find is, because spices, they are usually dry, they're obviously not fresh, and that's what makes them shelf stable. What you do is, even with any of the dip mixes, if you're doing the regular dip mix, if you make it now, great. If you make it a couple hours ahead, that flavor infuses. If you make it overnight, even if you have leftovers, you're going to notice the difference, and the flavors are going to really infuse even more. With cream cheese, it doesn't infuse as much, but you are going to notice a difference. It might actually taste stronger. So what today you put in a tablespoon, and you're like, it's still good, but I want some more. Wait till tomorrow. So it says, this is just cream cheese and dip mix so far? Yep, that's it. And then all you're going to do is, if you have this, so we have our 4-cup prep bowls, but if you want, you can just scoop it in to our 1-cup prep bowls or any container, and that's how you're going to store it so that you are ready to go. Goes well with crackers, and if you really want it, you can do your veggie dip. So as you can see, this is a 1-cup prep bowl, so it does make a little bit more. The best part about this is that you can actually layer and change the flavors. So if you want herb and garlic plus onion, you go right ahead and you add the dip mixes together. And then now you have it good for crackers. And like I said, a lot of cool, like with bagels and things like that. So it's a little bit over a cup. You can kind of see that, but pretty much almost exactly. Because it's a little bit more, my prep bowl lid is not going to go. I like these things because instead of silicone, we actually just have the covers, and they actually fit right on. So then I don't even have to do the saran wrap forever. So now you're ready to go. It's good tonight. Do what you like with it. Super easy, super quick. It's not just dip mixes, it's actually spreads. So anything like that. You can even do, by the way, flavor feta cheese like this. Same thing. You're going to add a tablespoon to about a cup to 2 cups of your cheese. And the more flavor you want, you can add more. The less flavor, the less. But I actually even use Greek seasoning with feta cheese. So you can do this with any type of kind of cheese, especially soft cheese, goat cheese, Verzan, like there's a whole bunch of cheeses you can do this with. So cream cheese is kind of the most common, but I highly suggest even like goat cheese, and you can do that in the rolls and then roll it back up. Super, super awesome. So that is recipe number 1. You're probably thinking, that was really easy. Super easy, yes, super simple, but now we're gonna get into the big part, okay? So I'm gonna put this in the fridge so that we're ready to go. And then we'll put that recipe away. And I know I'm gonna need another one. There we go. Okay. So recipe 1, super simple, but that's kind of more to show you that you can flavor all the cream cheeses. Cream cheese, just get the basic. or a basic yogurt, and you can actually put those dip mixes in. So whether it's cream cheese or whatever else, those dip mixes really actually help to save you some money, as well as make it versatile. You just buy the plain. You don't have to decide this week what's on the grocery list. Just buy plain yogurt, plain cream cheese, or those feta cheeses, and then the goat cheese. You don't have to worry about it if it's this versus that. You can actually flavor it at home as well. And that might save you on some sodium as well, because sometimes adding that flavor in, Epicure dip mixes are very low or no sodium, so you're saving on your health and your heart as well. So hopefully everybody's good. Super simple, super easy. Is everybody ready for the second recipe? Okay, so Janice was here because she knew I was prepping, so I've already explained it to her. But what we're gonna do is I'm gonna go step by step. So I'm doing step by step only because I wanna make sure that we're all on the same page and we're doing it kind of at the same stages. So don't think that I think that I'm like, oh, okay, but we're gonna go step by step, because number one, preheat the oven. I know, but you might not have done it, so I'm gonna do it with you, and that's how this is gonna work. So we're gonna preheat the oven to 350 degrees. I'm gonna press bake, 350, great. You can either choose bake, you can choose convection as well. So go to your oven, you're gonna choose bake 350 or bake convection 350. The only difference between baking and convection is convection actually has a fan that helps circulate that heat, and it evenly distributes the heat. So you're gonna get a kind of a more balanced bake out of it. So number one, preheat the oven. Good to go. Number two, you're gonna get your 8-inch square pan. Don't worry if it's a circle pan. Don't worry if it's 9 inches. It's A-okay. So what I'm gonna do is, this is what I use when they call for the 8-inch or the 9-inch brownies or anything else. I use my silicone steamer only because I think it's a great tool, and it pretty much does the exact same thing for brownies, anything. I use this thing for everything. It's like that woman with Frank's Red Hot. So just imagine this is it. And you guys might have heard, I think I told it at the beginning, I don't like doing dishes. So you don't like doing dishes like me. And yes, at this point I have a dishwasher, but as a student I didn't, and I just hated doing dishes. So I try to minimize the amount of dishes we use as well in my lessons, because who wants to clean up afterwards? Unless you cook and somebody cleans, just saying. Okay, so we have our ingredients. We're gonna do 1 cup of rolled oats, 1 cup of grated cheese, and 1 tablespoon of the Fajita or Souvlaki seasoning. If you do not have it, it is not a make or break. I'm gonna give you some tips on how to do it, but we do have Fajita, we have Souvlaki. I'm just gonna do the Fajita a little bit. You can use non-Epicure, it's okay. Not like, you know, an Epicure snob, A-okay, but if you don't wanna do it, it's okay. But I have one other trick. So I'm gonna get my cheese. Okay, there we go. Getting my cheese. So you'll see me go off camera for a second because I wanna keep everything fresh. Tex-Mex. So you can get cheddar, or because they kind of have that extra flavor, it's kind of a cheat if you don't have fajita, but if you want to add a little, because really it's just for the flavor, and we're just kind of highlighting 3 onions. So I thought you can always use Tex-Mex and layer in the flavors. I'm really big on layering flavors. So here's how we do this. I'm gonna take a 1 cup prep bowl. So I use this, there's measurements on it. So take a 1 cup, okay, and we're gonna do 1 cup of rolled oats. That's right, 1 cup of rolled oats right here. Okay, so I'm actually just gonna scoop right in because I know at the top I get 1 cup. So we're gonna do 1 cup. Just put that right there for a second. So at this point you have 2 options. If you do not have silicone, because silicone really pops, I still usually pre-oil my silicone. I don't know, I just always worry that it's gonna not. It always pops out, but I'm like a little bit like that. You're gonna either take wax paper because it's gonna be covered anyways, or you're gonna take parchment paper and line it. Parchment paper can come up. Don't worry, it won't burn. Wax paper will. Most people are okay with that, but sometimes people forget. Parchment paper will not burn when exposed, but if it's wax paper, it definitely needs to be covered. So if you need to cut a square, you just kind of line it up underneath and then cut it around and kind of push it in. But I'm gonna use oil. So we're gonna take oil.
Does it matter whether it's quick oats or large oats? I have both.
It doesn't matter. I'm just using quick oats, but you can use large oats. It's just going to matter how much it stays together. So kind of the smaller might help a little bit more, but it really doesn't super matter because the cheese is going to kind of fuse it, and then the eggs on top are going to kind of make it stay kind of like a little bit more together than regular. So you can use anything. Because this is a savory dish, I can use olive oil. If you want to have less taste or you don't like olive oil, use canola, sunflower oil, depending upon what you want. I'm just going to put in a dab, and I'm going to just kind of show you. I'm just going to put in one, like, it's not even a tablespoon, because I really don't need it that much. But if you want, you can do that. I do this with all my silicone stuff. And then I call it tickling. When I teach little kids, I take a basting brush, the silicone ones I love, and I just tickle it around. So if you want, you can kind of, you do that little rotating thing, but I just actually tickle all the bottom and just kind of get those sides. It's not going to go up all the way, but I really like doing this with all the silicone things. It literally pops out afterwards. So you can always oil it or do the wax paper or parchment paper option. So that's that. And then we're going to put these ingredients in. Okay. Do you use parchment paper in the steamer? You can. I don't, because it actually kind of acts as the parchment paper. So if you do have a steamer, if you have a steel one, like an aluminum one pan, then you're probably going to want to, only because you want to make sure it doesn't burn, as well as, nothing kind of sticks, just in case those eggs go a little bit through. So I would highly recommend making sure, depending upon what you have. If you have a silicone dish, great, you're good to go. But if you have a steel one or aluminum, all those kind of things, then I would say do the wax paper or parchment paper. Like I said, if you're going to have the walls up, because that's really cool when you want to lift it and just cut it, then you're going to want parchment, because wax paper will burn in the oven. Okay, so 1 cup of rolled oats and 1 cup of grated cheese. As you know, I don't like dishes, so we're going to actually just sprinkle this in. No joke. And then we're going to 1 cup of oats and 1 cup of cheese. And so I'm going to use that same prep bowl, because I do not like dishes, and I would love to be Rachel Ray, because then I'd have all that prep work done and all the bowls lined up beautifully. But real world, I am not Martha either. So that's it. I put it in the fridge, by the way. Sorry, I'm a little bit crazy about food safety. And then you're going to sprinkle that in. Okay, what you're going to do is, you can either take your measuring cup or any kind of cup. And then you're just going to mix it first. Okay, I mix it first. And then you're just going to mix it around so that that kind of like that cheese and the oats go together. Don't forget, this is gluten-free at this point. If you have gluten-free oats, to ensure that they're gluten-free. And then if you want, I did the Tex-Mex, but you can also do the fajita. It says 1 tablespoon. I find that like a lot, but you can do a teaspoon. But if you notice, it's a brand new jar and it's actually to the top. I don't know if you guys can see that. So another thing I really think, people are like, oh my gosh, it's right to the top. So if it's a new jar, be careful when you peel it, because it ends up becoming like poof everywhere. So I'm going to use a teaspoon, not a tablespoon. That's a-okay. But if you really want that super flavor, you're going to sprinkle that. Another thing you can use is taco mix or chili mix. A-okay if you want a similar taste. You can use souvlaki, because then it kind of adds more like, the Greek taste. And then you're just going to mix it again to make sure. I kind of like mixing the ingredients separate, just to make sure that the cheese is there and it's not sticking to the cheese instead of the oats, and getting it all done like that. So I'm just going to give you a look-see. So it's not sticking yet, right? Okay, so we're going to do that. And we already prepared for the filling. Here we go. So we're going to just set that aside for a second. I'm going to set my spices aside. Our oven is going. I like trying to make sure I have everything ready to go. Oh, look at there. I am Rachel Ray to some points. Then we got our 4-cup prep bowl again. I like it because they're clear, so then it's easier for people to see. And then this is where we get the 2 eggs, because I'm food safety. I go grab the eggs. Okay, omega-3 eggs. Just a little nutrition tip, because I love nutrition and that's my background. Omega-3, no difference when it comes to kind of like the quality, other than the egg shell cracks actually harder because there's a very strong membrane on the inside of it. That's the only difference I find quality-wise. So you're gonna have to crack it a little bit more. The difference is that these chickens were fed flaxseed, and the other chickens that are not omega-3, they're not. Omega-3 helps with your brain. Questionable about your heart. Studies say yes, some studies say no, but definitely help with your brain health. So I always put omega-3 in instead of having my kids go, I don't like fish. they're still getting omega-3 fatty acids, which are super, super healthy, and are also in breast milk, by the way. So obviously nobody probably here is drinking breast milk. So omega-3 eggs it is. So we're gonna do 2. And I'm gonna put that in the fridge because I just have that little issue in my head of going, put it away, put it away. So I'm gonna crack those 2. So we're gonna crack 2 eggs. I'm just putting that, and I kind of use, I don't know if you noticed, there's like these lids here. I use the big lids for kind of like, so I don't dirty up all my counter. It's kind of like a food safe spoon and everything else resting. And then I do composting. So these ones will actually go in the compost bag over here because I have a compostable bag that I make sure that I have that. Okay, so we've got the 2 eggs, and then we've got to do spinach. So I know that Janice did the cooked spinach. Did anybody else cook the spinach beforehand? Because I did not, just to make sure. Did everybody cook their spinach? Except me? Oh, I was thinking there was gonna be, oh my gosh, really? Everybody else cooked it? Okay, so we were just talking about this. I'm gonna just cook it quickly and we'll do the rest of it. So strainer, and it's only 2 cups. So what I'm gonna do is use that prep bowl, 3rd time, and I'm gonna measure it in, push it in, because we know. So if you don't know what a cup is kind of offhand, when you're looking in the grocery store, I just try to push that in a little bit. There's 1 cup. 1. We've got the big leaves. Just want to make sure. You guys are going to have to be waiting for me. Oh my gosh, you guys were way more prepared. I was hoping that there was somebody that was just like, yeah, I got the ingredients. Show me what to do. You guys are way more prepared in Thorndale. Geez Louise, I miss living in Thorndale. I don't know if anybody let you guys know that I used to live in Thorndale on King Street. And I miss it. And my girls miss it. We totally miss it. Not the greatest idea to move into the city, but we did. There's benefits. And so I'm going to rinse this. Rinse, rinse, rinse. You can hear me. Rinse, rinse, rinse. Food safety, rinse, rinse, rinse. Sorry, ladies. Get that water out. Because what we want to do is throw that in. So we're going to pretend that somebody that's going to be watching this video doesn't know how to do spinach. We're going to put it in a frying pan with the rinsed kind of water. We've drained it, but there's some water on there. And what we're going to do is we're going to turn this on medium-high. There we go. Medium-high. The other thing is, super cool if you want to do this really kind of quicker and speed it up. We are going to get glass lids. I love the glass lids. So I'm going to put that on there, and it's going to basically wilt it all down. So I can move ahead with you guys. If you guys want to beat it, whip it good. Whip it good. Just saying. So we're going to take our any kind of whisk. And so you guys have the cooked chopped spinach. I have this, but I want really the eggs whipped first. Kind of a thing, like it's a culinary thing that I always want to make sure that the eggs are mixed before we start actually adding anything else in. So we're going to make sure that that's done. We've got the spinach for me cooking, but you guys are so well prepared. Okay, everybody's got ricotta. So we're going to go ahead with the ricotta. Ricotta. Or cottage cheese, whatever you prefer. Okay. So if you have a big thing like this, this is bigger than what you need, obviously. We need about 250 grams or 1 cup. Okay, so don't forget, prep bowl again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to peel this away. And then I'm just going to take one of the, I like using this for my dip mix. So I'm just going to take a big tablespoon, big tablespoon, and I'm going to scoop it into that prep bowl. How many times, I should do this. How many times have I actually used this prep bowl in the same recipe? So I'm going to get that. Oh, this is very firm. Oh, hello, ricotta. I like using this in like pastas and lasagnas too. So you can totally use that for that as well. I see you. I've got some lonely cats that are, oh, and that little thing is just the oven saying, hey, preheated. And we're gonna do that. Okay, so as I'm spilling all over the place, we're gonna make sure we put that in. Just watch, it will flop into your eggs and you will wear the eggs. So go gentle, move that away. And don't forget, I like putting things away. So away goes the ricotta and away goes the eggs that have been sitting there. Not great, but here we go. And we're going to grab that cheese again. And there we go. So we're going to do that. And we're going to mash that into the, nope, I see you. I'm trying to make sure that Cat doesn't bother me, but can't guarantee anything because he's, yeah, you just want attention. Come here. Down here, you stay on the floor. Okay, so we're getting that mixture in, right? Nope. We're gonna do 1 cup. Don't worry about that because it's all gonna be in the same thing. You're gonna do 1 cup of, or half a cup, 1 cup. Grated cheese. There we go, we got that in there. And if you guys have the spinach, you guys go ahead and you add that in, okay? And I'm gonna go one at a time. I'm gonna get that egg mixture in. This might be a good time to go back to a spoon and just get that mixture once it starts getting thick. I like making sure it's all together before I add that dip mix. So if you don't have lemon dilly, that's okay. You can do double up, or you can just do a more faint kind of taste where it's not as super strong if you don't have the lemon dilly. No big deal. So we're gonna do 1 to 2 tablespoons, depending on if you have lemon dilly. So we're gonna do 1. I'm gonna do 2 because I'm gonna pretend I don't have it. I do have it. And so we're good that way. Done that way. I'm gonna mix that up and woo! So you know, wilting, very good. Gonna get that going. I can actually even turn that off. And I'm gonna just show you how quickly that goes. All I do is check my time. I'm at 26. We've only been doing this for 26 minutes. So you've already made your spread. You've got this going, and watch how quick this is gonna be. No! Oh, God, that darn cat. He really just does it purposely, I think. Sorry, cleaning. For attention. I'm like, seriously? I don't like locking him in a room, but man, he's asking for it soon. Soon. He's like looking at himself like, yeah, I gotcha. I'm like, yeah, gotcha too. So I'm gonna make sure that this is all good and wilted around. I've already turned the heat off the spinach as well. Okay. So I'm gonna take that, and don't worry about the amount of spinach. If you're like not a spinach person, that's okay. You can put less in, more in. And really, if you have very kind of fine, like a little bit of kale, a little bit of spinach, okay. So this is the only thing is, hopefully, I'm gonna put the cheese away. Bum, bum, bum. And I'm gonna get out my cutting board. That's all I do. I'm gonna put this away, and look at this lid. Oh, super cat friendly. But there is no way you're getting in that, mister. He's like our Garfield. He's like the orange Garfield cat that I'm like, really? Okay, and if you want black pepper, salt, it's gonna go in right now. But I'm gonna show you kind of quickly how that goes. I put it off the heat to not damage that. And if you want, I do this, but I'm sure there's a lot of veteran cooks in here. Just have a feeling. So I try not to squish out all the moisture, but once you start cutting, you kind of get that moisture out of it no matter what. I kind of use the tongs to kind of keep it together, and I just cut away to make sure. And I like cutting it when it's nice and warm and soft because it feels like it just goes through like butter a lot easier. So I'm just gonna put in what I have, but if you want more, you want less, that's okay. As long as it's all kind of coated. And the only other thing is when I'm putting it in hot, not great for the egg, so I'm gonna have to throw it in as quick as possible. So we've got all that stuff in, we're gonna spoon it in. So I'm just gonna actually be very nice about it as much as it's warm. The moisture is gonna kind of squeeze out of it. Squeezing, isn't that great? Using the tongs. We're gonna get that moisture out of it. I'm gonna put it on top, squeezing it out. If you want, you can save the juices for smoothie drinks the next day. Still has some of that chlorophyll and cool stuff in it. Yeah. There we go. I'm gonna just put that in the sink. There we go. Another thing, and don't forget, all you're gonna do is mix and spoon that in. So let's see where everybody's at. We're gonna mix that spinach in. And hopefully you guys are seeing this bread. Okay.
I just have a quick question. I did the souvlaki spice in the bottom.
Yep.
And then I did a tablespoon of lemon dilly in this part.
Yes.
And then is there 3 onion in this also? Or
yes. So you can do 1 to 2 tablespoons. So if you have lemon dilly, it's up to 3 tablespoons of both of them. But I found that you can actually combine them or just do one or the other. So kind of to your taste, like I would say maybe you can do like another tablespoon if you want to have that robust, like, and you're gonna do 3 onion in it. So at least 1 tablespoon, and then you have the lemon dilly. Cool. I just wanted to make sure that if people don't have lemon dilly, that's okay. So you're just gonna take your bottom base, try not to upset it too much. Not like sad, but you know what I mean? Not shoving it all to one side, and make sure your spinach is all kind of in there, and you're gonna spoon it on top, okay? Kind of try to get it a little, kind of goes in chunks, but just kind of try to get every area instead of just dropping it in. And that way it's gonna make it easier to smooth out. Dun, dun, dun. And that's it. We're gonna put that in there. Dun, dun, dun. So just so you know, it doesn't look the greatest because it's in lumps, but then you can either take your spoon, a spatula, whatever you like, press it down. And now because it's kind of hit some of the areas, you're gonna kind of spread it like a brownie mix almost, no joke. And it's kind of thick, but that's the eggs and the ricotta. It's gonna be ooh, so good, creamy, okay? And if you have any extra cheese left over, okay, you're gonna sprinkle it on top. So this is a really forgiving recipe. You can kind of, you know, even if you have little chunks of vegetables, imagine kind of like it's just a crust, like a gluten-free crust quiche, kind of like that, but without being it in a pie setting. So if you want, you can go grab some cheese. I just think it looks pretty. So you can just take some and sprinkle. I'm gonna do that. Sprinkle. I'm gonna do this because I feel like I really want to wash my hands again. So I don't want to put my hands in this cheese because just got to sprinkle. Ooh, that came out. Well, it's almost done. So now I'm just going to actually put that cheese on top. Then finish it off. That's how forgiving it is. So hopefully it's going to look like that. You're going to pop it in. 35 to 40 minutes. Okay, here we go. There it goes. Okay, now wait for it. Hey, Google, set a timer for 30 minutes.
30 minutes, starting now.
Hopefully I set yours off too. And then we all did it at once. But I do find that I forget a lot of stuff, so I just set it. A lot of times I never used to set timers, but being busy sometimes, as much as you think, I'll remember, it's really good to just go poof. As soon as it's in, away you go. You can clear up your dishes. And then I'm gonna clear up these. We actually have that. So that will be ready in 30, 35 minutes for you, depending upon, like if we hit convection, no lid, nope, no lid. Nope, I'm double checking. I'm like, yeah, nope, no lid, no lid, you're good. Nope. I know. So if somebody's asking that, maybe that's because they've used the steamer before. So if we're using the steamer as the steamer, definitely gonna want a lid to get that going. Good segue into the third recipe, because there is ways that you can use the steamer, and even for this recipe that we're gonna be doing. So if you have a steamer, you want it, A-okay, I'll tell you the kind of the alternative instructions, but if not, let's just get a pot of hot water going. Okay, so I'm gonna use our multi-pot, and it says cook beans in salted water until tender crisp. Okay, all we're gonna do is boil some water. So fill it up. Oh, I'm gonna do about 6 cups, maybe 8. This one goes up to 12. Here we go. Waiting, waiting, waiting. If everybody's doing it together, then we should be hitting the same spot. But I have a feeling you guys are going to be able to cook faster than me because my stove tends to not have some fun times going on. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to use that because that was a hotter burner. Much as it's inefficient because that small ring is still big, it's actually really great. Put that lid on. You do not have to salt the water. Salting for this purpose is just for taste. So hopefully everybody's doing that. And then that's it. And we're going to prep while that's going on the green beans and or asparagus. Okay. You can do this with asparagus too. I just harvested. So same thing. I'm going to take my strainer. Remember that? I'm going to wash them. I always wash my stuff. I really do. Just in case, food safety. Oh, I see so many food recalls of that. So we're going to just prep them. And we're going to take off the ends, and maybe you guys have prepped already because I feel like you guys are super prepared. But we're going to pretend that somebody is not. And so I'm going to take one last bowl so you guys can see. And you guys have ever done it before, I'm assuming most of you have. You just take off the ends if you like, or just like the stems. I don't mind the ends as long as they're not kind of like gross and brown. And then I'm just going to do that. So hopefully we can all do that while it's starting to boil that water. So it's heating up. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to do that. I just like the ends off. I don't know if it's a traditional thing, but I don't think you desperately need to do it other than the stems. So if you can see that, there's the stems on it. So if you want, break them off easily with your fingers. And what we're going to do is we're just going to dump them in. So we're going to dump them in once that water gets hot and boiling. My stove, I don't know about anybody else. Oh, there goes the end. It actually doesn't heat up really well. It's electric, and so it goes on, off, which is kind of what it's supposed to do, but it just seems to really not heat up as well as gas. So if anybody has a gas stove, wave their hands. I'm coming over to you next time when COVID's done, because I am envious and I love working on gas stoves. So anytime I get a chance, here we go. So we're gonna just prep some. And obviously this recipe, I believe it says per serving, it has 6 servings in it. So if you have less, I do have less, then we're gonna, you know, it's okay. But I'm gonna show you, I have a feeling, there it goes, on, off, on, off. I'm gonna prep all these. You want to, making sure the stems are off. It's a thing. Does everybody else do both ends or do they just do the stems? I do both because that's what my mother did. I'm like, did that. And dun, dun, I'm gonna do that. I have a feeling some of you already prepped this. And the amount, yeah, same if you use asparagus. Yes, because it's really more about the ingredients when it comes down to the 3 onion. So you can do about the same, absolutely, because it's really, you're gonna cook whatever you want. You could really actually do this with cooked carrots, steamed carrots. So yes, so about the same amount for asparagus. But what you're going to see is this is cooking with Epicure is very forgiving. That's why I find that a lot of their baking things they have as those single serve packages, because baking is an exact science more so than cooking. Cooking, you can mix and match, you can kind of add more in, but yes, you can use about the same amount for asparagus or what else? It's a very simple recipe. So it's just more about using the 3 onion with butter. And so you're going to see that where I'm like, but there's a trick. So if you want to get this quicker, and this is really what I tend to do, but I wanted to assume that you guys didn't have any of the steamers. So once you go to steamers, then you go, oh, no joke. I had a man go, yeah, I had that in the house for years. And if you hadn't shown me what to do with it, I would have probably just donated it. And I'm like, I see that all the time. I'm like, oh, he's like, I will never steam vegetables again without this steamer. So that's say that again.
that's me. I bought this thing like a year ago and I've not used it. So I'm loving that you're using it tonight. That's great.
Yeah, so, and I feel bad because I could have done steamers, but I wanted to do just kind of the community event Arden wanted to do. And that's A-okay, but I didn't want to assume anybody had it. And I'm not like wanting to be like, hey, buy a steamer, and then you have to buy this and this and this. It's totally doable without the other products. And honestly, most people that are like, then they sign up through me, they're like, I don't cook with a microwave. I'm like, you trust me. I'm like, I used to do broccoli. So broccoli is where I started. And this is before I was a consultant. I only became a consultant because I wanted my stuff like discounted, and I had bought it for 10 years. And then I was like, I'm using it in my private cooking classes, and people were asking, and I kept on sending them to other reps. I was like, but now I'm paying full price. I'm like, I'm just gonna, whatever. And so I ended up signing up 5 years ago, and it's been a ride. It's really been a ride. But yeah, I started with a steamer, and I was like, what can I steam? I never steamed things before in my life, no joke. My mom wouldn't steam vegetables, she'd boil them, which we kind of hear in the news, like, you know what, you shouldn't boil them because some of the vitamins leach out. And it's true, but not all of them, but yes, the longer that you do that. So yeah, the steamer, here you go. Because I think that was that Darren? Sorry, it's my eyes, I can't see that far. So wait 1 second. Okay. Okay, so you've seen the big steamer. We've put that in there. You can use a steamer for this as well, okay? But here's where I like this one as well. This is really good because it's, okay? You're gonna want some room, but you can use a rectangular one. We call this kind of like more like a 2 serving, but you can do salmon in here, just the same as what you do in the big steamer. But honestly, just broccoli. Just do broccoli. Oh my gosh. People will, carrots, the what is it, the medley, the vegetable medley even. So you're going to use this kind of dressing, but it's going to be butter, 3 onion, and you're going to steam them. And if I'm going to tell you both ways to do it. So thank you very much for kind of pointing it out. But you can do the same thing in the steamer. You can always probably put more in, but I'm just going to kind of do it for equal amounts. So pretend this is the steamer portion, this is that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put that in. My water takes forever to boil. That's the big tip, is whenever you're having pasta or anything else, start the water first. So we're gonna pretend, I don't know, who else has boiling water? Wave if you have boiling water. Okay, Janice has got boiling water. Let's check. I've got almost, Janice, I'm coming to your house next.
Because it's on to boil. It doesn't mean that it's boiling yet. It's just on to boil. It's getting there though.
Yeah.
Same with you. I'm slow.
Yeah, I'm like, it's just not gas. And I'm like, thank you, previous owner. And I'm like, I don't, my parents are like, put in the gas line. I'm like, really don't want to go through all that. And then, oh, but you can do your barbecue. I'm like, okay. I'm like, just seems so simple. I'm like, okay, just put the money into my account.
It's okay. We live in the country. Everything takes a little bit longer to get here.
I remember it was like going to town, right? Going to town. And even if it was a 10-minute to 12-minute drive to get to the closest big grocery store, not Tony's, like I was just kind of like, it's an event. And then I told people when I was in the country, I said, I'd make my own pancake mix. And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, and even baggy it. So like, you don't just, right? So you have to. So everybody knows that it's just a really slower pace of living, which I like. And now I live with a bus stop in front of me. So I totally miss the slower pace. And it's like, you know, I put on the tunes. Normally, if I'm just on my VIP group, I sometimes put on the tunes and I'm like, actually, but I'm like, it's an enjoyable event. So it was nice to have country life. I don't know. My mom and my grandmother had a farm in Niagara. So I made jam from scratch and we would put the actual like wax on top. I don't know if anybody here remembers that, but instead of canning, we would can, but to seal the jars, we would actually melt down wax and put it on top of the Concord grape jam. And as a kid, I hated when my grandma left the skins on. And now as an adult, I was like, I love the skins. So it's not jelly. So yeah, I'm kind of probably dating myself, but I really liked actually being at my grandma's farm and just doing that thing and doing the regular stuff. But that was a fruit farm. So we had lots of fruit and lots of things. And it's actually She's there. I was like, I keep my grandma with my kids flanking her, picture by my stove. I'm not that weird that I just love that life. Just love that life. Oh my gosh. I feel the heat. It's still not boiling. So we're going to show you for the steamer purposes. I keep all my steamer stuff usually in here. That's my other trick. So I had this talk with Emily today. We keep our stuff in the fridge or in the stove too. Like we store our stuff in there. Okay, so this is for Darren. This is how easy it gets because we're still waiting for it to boil. So we still have 17 minutes. We're good. I usually try to do this in half an hour if it's just like a couple things, if it's a drink. But yeah, I just use the reference guide on this handy dandy thing. And then I just go to, rectangular steamer. We're going to call it asparagus, similar. It's like half a bunch, cover microwave on high, 3 minutes, makes 2 servings. So that's the good thing is don't forget we washed it. It's just a tiny bit of water, okay? So we're just gonna do this. I guess we're gonna really show them how it's done. So if you have a steamer and you wanna use the steamer, you go right ahead. The microwave now, the microwave is a different story. It does have a mind of its own, but sometimes it heats up way too much. So then sometimes I get the poof of everything coming out. So that's gonna be 3 minutes and then waiting for it to boil. Hence why you should use the steamer thing, Darren, because I'm like, it's Sandy, isn't it? I'm reading somebody else's name. That's why. I was like, I don't remember, but that's my Dory.
Yeah, no, I'm Sandy. I'm just logged in on my husband's laptop. So
That's where I was like, oh my gosh, how many times? Like, I'm like, you call people by the wrong name because you're like, okay, maybe I forgot, but that's my Dory coming through. So Sandy, yeah, that's the whole point is like, that's why you use your steamer. Like, no joke. You don't need to pour tons of water. Everybody asks. I do rice in it. Like, I was surprised. The salmon actually turns out really good. People are kind of worried about doing chicken or meat. If you're doing it all at the same time and you're not letting it sit and you fully cook something, it doesn't turn rubbery as well as long as you don't overcook it. So usually just follow the instructions. If you're scared to do it, try it once. Worst thing that can happen. If you have any problems, honestly, text me. I actually have people texting me or messaging me all the time. How do you use this? What do you do with this? And no joke, like I'm really pretty chill about it. So if you want to just go on Messenger and you're just like tomorrow, you're just like, so how do you do this with a steamer? No problem. I'm like, my biggest thing is I'm like, you don't know how to, you know what I mean, cook. You're usually one of the like the little kids that I teach. But if you're one of the people that you're just like, you just want those extra little tips, or you're just like, I don't know how to use this tool. Absolutely. Or people like, what is dragon fruit or things like that? I'd be like, I'm probably the Bill Nye science guy of nutrition and food. So just ask away and don't be like, this is weird. I'm like, you basically have like a little culinary person in your back pocket. You just go pull out your phone and be like, I don't know what I'm doing. What do I do? And I've had people take pictures and be like, So we've got that going. Look at how, this is the funniest part. That's why I'm like, this is the person of, I am super busy and I totally did the main and totally forgot to do the veggie side. And they're like, you don't need veggies. This is the best tool for steaming. So you can do this in the big one. You can do it in the small one. They used to make small square ones. You can totally do it in that. But I find it's better than like say like putting this in and you can actually like steam boil things and pull it out of the pots. There's so many different ways to steam it, but yeah, steamed broccoli, you just do the broccoli heads, or even if you're like a Costco person, I'm not a big Costco person, but you know how they have the bag of florets? Dump it in, like wash it, but I just make sure I wash everything because I'm just food safety crazy, but wash it, rinse it off, like don't leave all the water in, and that just enough of that water really, really takes effect, but the water in the vegetables itself will work. But I just find when I wash it, kind of adds a little bit more. You might have a tiny bit of water in the bottom, but the broccoli florets, crazy. And then I started doing that for like all the rest of it. So corn, even if it was frozen corn, I put it in my steamers and I add the butter usually in it while it's like defrosting and cooking in there. So I do all my vegetables in the steamer. So as we're still waiting for that, what a great, no joke, and watch this. There's a little vent there. On the big ones, there are big vents. Be careful because it is actually super hot. So I grab it by that. Watch this. I'm like, this is your facial, but you cannot do this if you have fake eyelashes or mascara on. Just saying. Don't lean over and get your facial. That is crazy in 3 minutes, and we're still waiting for that to boil. Crazy. Crazy. So that's why the lazy person, like me, I'm like, oh, I forgot about that because I'm Dory. You actually have steamed right there. Okay, so let's go ahead. Oh, I see little bubbles. Let's go ahead. And if you want, here's the thing. If you want, use the same bowl. If you're willing to do a little bit more dishwashing or put another dish out, you can actually take that bowl, take a second bowl. So if you want, take a second bowl, and we're just gonna actually do the little mix, okay? And then have it ready in the bowl. And then once the beans cook, we're gonna put it back in. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is, because I don't like doing dishes, in that goes by the stove. So we're gonna just put that by the stove. We're waiting for it. And then here's our little tip. So you can always do the steamer super quick. That's like ready to go. And they're super hot, like super hot. But that's when we put the lid on, and that creates that convection and the steaming effect. So we're gonna pretend that we're still doing this, and we are gonna do it, but I just wanna make sure that it is properly boiled. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna add 3 onion dip mix. So that's all we're gonna do is 2 tablespoons of it. So you're gonna put it in your bowl. So take your 2 tablespoons. So 1, okay, 2. And now we can put that lid on because we've done 3 recipes with that. And then I'm gonna take my butter. I like the softened butter. So you're gonna do 2 tablespoons. Okay. My daughter bought me this. It's totally cute, totally country-esque, and she knew that I liked having soft butter. So I'm just gonna take that out, and we're gonna do 1 tablespoon of butter. I love butter. I know I'm a nutrition freak, but everything's better with butter. And I totally think Julia Child said that. If not, you can quote me, but I'm pretty sure everything's better with butter. If you want to use a butter alternative, if you're comfortable with margarine, you go right ahead. I just like butter. So I'm going to take a tablespoon, but I know it really likes to stick to this. So I sometimes take 2, and I either do this or I do this. So I'm actually going to do this because I know that's clean and I don't want 3 onion on my butter right away. So you get about 1 tablespoon. I'm just going to plop it off. And you're probably like, Sandra, what the heck? Like, that's not awesome. The heat of the beans is actually going to melt it. So what I kind of do is try to get the kind of some of the butter, and you can mush it if you really want, but don't worry about it because it's all going to melt once that heat of the beans, once they're hot and cooked, it's going to hit that. So I'm going to put that butter away, but I've got that ready. So you've got that ready. So even if you need to, then you can toss it. I'm going to move this into the compost. I hope I'm going to do that. There we go. It makes me feel better that I have my compost. I feel like I'm like one of the only people in London with a composter. Seriously, does anybody who has boiling water? Yeah, okay, it's just me now. Just me. I love you. Okay, if you have boiling water, you're gonna put your beans in the water. If you want to salt it, you go right ahead. I try to minimize salt, and I only add it at the dinner table afterwards because usually 70% of your salt is in a box or the preparation of it if you prepared it. So I kind of wait for the taste because salt just brings out that flavor. So I personally don't add salt to it. If you do, okay. So you're gonna open it up, you're gonna drop it in, and you're gonna cook those babies. Mine is still not enjoyable. So we're gonna let that go. And then I'm gonna show you, don't forget. And I like these things because, by the way, they kind of insulate it. So it's gonna be super hot. So once you drop those beans in, hopefully you guys have dropped those beans in, you're gonna actually just, when they're cooked, you're gonna strain them, make sure. So here's 2 things. You're gonna have your strainer. If you have a strainer, great. Cool thing about these, oh my gosh, this is so sad. Now you can really understand why I have the steamer in my house. The super cool thing is they have big holes and small holes. So it was funny because we talk about like the failures of Epicure consultants. And there was one girl at the conference that she totally forgot it had that in there. And then she was using another strainer and she's like, oops, blooper was totally forgot. And she's like a veteran, like of how many years. So you just actually put it on and you actually just tip it. And it's great for mulling spices, whatever else. If you want to drain stuff, pasta, that's how, I'm like, I never pull out a thing anymore for pasta. I just spin it to the big one if it's rotini. And then I spit it to the little one of the spaghetti so they all don't come out. And that's it. Oh, hello, Nelly. It's coming through. So once you have that, all you're going to do is toss it because the green beans are going to actually melt the butter. No joke. And you're just going to mix it around. And you're going to pretend that those beans are in here too, because this is a lot for just a small amount of green beans. But you can do asparagus as well as the other thing. If you had the steamer, you wouldn't be using this bowl. You know why? Because you would be steaming it all together. You would just put it in the steamer and no joke, steam it like that. And then you would actually just toss it at the end. That's what I do because I'm lazy and I don't like doing dishes. So you're just gonna do that and it'll melt. But if you do this in the steamer, it'll melt even quicker. So super, and obviously I would like more beans to be cooked quicker in this house. So hence I use the steamer. So I'm gonna pour that back in there. Actually, you know what? I know what I'm gonna do. I'm probably gonna steam it. Oh, I'm so sad. Like, this is the saddest thing ever. I swear I need to tell Epicure and be like, can you guys just buy me a new stove? Because everybody else has water that boils quicker than me in their stove. Like, that tells you. I'm like, oh my goodness. So, oh, I think we have it, Houston. Look at, we still have 7 minutes on our timer for our spinach, right? Our spinach lunchbox. Here we go. I'm probably not going to catch up to you guys. The only way I'm going to catch up is using the steamer, but here we go. Let's go. And there we are. Houston, we have liftoff or drop down. Okay, and I just kind of throw it like that. I know people kind of like go, ooh, but I actually like that because it kind of keeps some of the water in there. Because I have a tendency to walk away from things because of my brain injury. So I actually go, I said timers. I put it there because I really don't want it to boil down to nothing. No joke. Safety tips, great for children as well. Not a child, just forgetful. So that's kind of what I do to kind of keep some of the moisture in, but not close it and seal it. So then you know you have all that little kind of foam coming through. So don't forget, I didn't put the salt in, but super good. And then they say tender crisp. So you're not gonna do it until they're like really limp. But now it's gonna be to your taste. So it's about, I'd say if you guys might be ready. I don't know if anybody wants to test theirs out to go, it might be ready. You want to pull one out, put it in the strainer, and anybody that thinks theirs is ready, wave a hand. And then all you're going to do is you're going to drain them and then toss them in the mix that you have, or you can actually just do the kind of little butter and 3 onion afterwards. So I'm just going to put this in here, but it's super herby, but super cool. But I wish that I would have just used a steamer, but you guys have better stoves than me. I just have the steamer. So you're gonna have lots of herby. So you're gonna see that it looks very similar to the picture. It's just very, very coated because I have less beans in there. So if you have, the more beans you have, the greater, the more that dressing is kind of like salad dressing of sorts. You're gonna have that little beautiful butter, but then that way the 3 onion. So obviously this is not a prep ahead with the butter and the 3 onion. You can, or you can flavor your butter as well. I know you can do everything with the 3 onion. One of the most popular ones. So hopefully that helps. Oh, I'm just loving the fact that that's actually cooking. And then we have 4 minutes left until the spinach squares are done. I'm gonna hit that light on. So I have the light on. Just so you know, as soon as if you don't use the light, if you open the oven, it actually can drop up to 30 to 40 degrees, depending on how long you've actually opened it up for. So the best thing to do is if you're not sure and you know there's still tons of time, don't forget I did 30 minutes and they called for 35 to 40 minutes. So the thing is that I always err on the side of caution, check at 30 and then kind of add heat, because I told you this stove, so lovely. So what I do is I look inside, I put that light on and I look inside and go, and then because it's so high, because it's a steamer and I put it on the top rack, can't see. So I'm going to sneak a peek, but I know I'm going to drop that. It's doing pretty good. And your cheese should have been melted on top by now, but we're still gonna cook it for that extra 3.5 minutes. I probably am gonna do about 5 minutes. So we're just gonna test that theory out. And then we've got that severely boiling now. It's very boiling, finally. But I did drop those in. And then what you can do is you can take your tongs. Remember those spinach tongs? And you can always use those. Just drop them down. That is not crispy, but it depends on, it's kind of like stir fries. Some people like them soggy, some people like them very firm. I'm still probably gonna have to do about 3 or 4 minutes, probably at that high boil. But other than that, like you said, 3 minutes in the steamer. Does anybody have any questions as we're kind of cooking and making sure that everything's going good? No, we're all good so far? Perfect. I'm just double checking, make sure we did everything. So cream cheese, recap. We did the cream cheese, but you can do anything. 3 onion, we have an herb and garlic. I don't know, does anybody else have other Epicure spices that they're like, yeah, you can actually do a blend. So you can do like a fajita. What I find is when I use cream cheese, I like the antojitos or pinwheels, if you've heard of mixing pinwheels or antojitos. So cream cheese with any of the dip mixes. So you can use 3 onion. You can use fajita in there. And then you sprinkle cheese, a little bit of chopped up peppers. So you can flavor those things instead of just doing plain cream cheese like a lot of the recipes do. You can blend in the flavors of fajita, 3 onion, nacho, taco, whatever you want. And I find that that's super awesome. So I kind of really like showing that you can use a lot of things. And I always say layer the flavor, because then that way, the more flavor you have, the less likely you're going to add salt, sugar, and you know what? It really makes you feel like you're like the chef. So I was like, you don't need to go to the restaurant. So last season was #better than takeout, according to Epicure. So that was kind of like their goal was to say, hey, by the way, it can be better than takeout. And I feel so bad for the restaurant industry, but I was just like, yep. And so I like when people are like, oh my gosh, this is so good. I'm like, yay, made at home. And then they're like, what's your secret? I'm like, I'm not the chef. I just make things taste good because I'm like, I don't have to blend all this stuff. That's the other thing is I'm like, very convenient. Here we go. Let's see if this is, does anybody do this too? As soon as I pick up tongs, I have to do this. I don't know, it's a thing, but I'm like, I can't stop myself and I just do this weird thing, even when I'm barbecuing. So, you know what? Let's see if I can show you how this works. We're gonna use this pan and pretend it's my sink. So, these beans, they're starting to, some of them are starting to turn. I'm gonna do it to this little thin piece. And what I'm gonna do is, as long as this wasn't over the heat, it's still like pretty safe. And I'm actually just gonna show you, I just actually pour it out. Pour it out. I hold on because there's a little silicone knob right there. They're gonna fill up that pan. Okay, there we go. I shake, shake, shake. And then it's ready. So don't forget to just pretend like that's still the same bowl. So maybe I'll show you. Stop. There we go. I'm just gonna put these in, back in. That heat is gonna coat up. Shake your beans in, shake your booty, shake your beans. And so I'm just gonna actually do that. We're gonna pretend we either all did this in the steamer or we all did this in the pots. So you're gonna actually just get that around, coat it around. If you want, you can add more butter to make it kind of creamier and more, you know, kind of saucy. But if you just want the really flavored beans, this is a really good, cool mix where you're really adding that flavor, and then people can go, oh, look at you, super chef. And then that way you have your beans. I'm just gonna put that in there. And sometimes I just use my steamers, honestly, as a way to keep the food hot when you're calling out to people going, dinner's ready. And then nobody comes. And they're like, dinner's ready. I don't know if anybody's had that. Put that in this house. I just hit the button on the pause internet, no joke. They think I'm a Nazi because I actually can pause the internet. And then they're like, so you just wait till they complain and you're like, dinner's ready. So then I just do this. That's what I do. Because honestly, I'm so just like, just get it done. So If you want to use a bowl, use a bowl. But if you do have the steamers, that's what I was like, and there you go. So that's what I would recommend if you do have the steamers. If not, A-okay. If you want to use a casserole dish as well, instead of a bowl, then you can put that lid on and you're A-okay. So that's that. And don't forget, we heard that little oh, and by the way, I have quartz countertops. That's one good thing about the kitchen. So I can put anything hot on there. Hot stuff, use hot plates. And then that's that hot water. We're gonna turn that off. And anybody, this is gonna be hot. So you're gonna need oven gloves, like oven mitts. I am old school and my mom always taught us only with a tea towel. Not as safe, but this is truly what I do. So usually you're gonna bend and you're gonna actually pull the rack out. Still highly suggested. So you do that so you don't put your hands in all the way and you're less likely to pull up and burn the tops of your hands. That being said, I still have done it because the Dory in me just. So if you have a hot plate, great. You're gonna set it down. I'm just gonna show you for now what mine looks like. It's a little crusty on the outside. Okay, so it's really good. It has that height. It's kind of soft in the middle. So you have a couple options at this point. You can either leave it in for another 3-4 minutes. I would highly suggest. So I'm going to do that to make sure it's all cooked because it's not just eggs, it's the ricotta in there. So it kind of gets the eggs a little funky. So we're going to put it in for a little bit of 3, but here we go. We're going to put it in. You already got the crusty on top. And that way we're going to go, hey Google, set a timer for 3 minutes.
3 minutes, starting now.
I have a Google Pixel too, so I do everything to be integrated so it's quick, easy, and it's all one-stop shop. Okay, so I'm gonna put my thing away. We're gonna put that away, that away. That's gonna be super dangerous because I poured hot water into a pan. Awesome. So now you've got green beans. Don't forget, you've got your prepared cream cheese. So if you like that, obviously use any dip mix you want. Super awesome, or even fajita. So if you have like a favorite flavor that you're like, how do I epicurize this? Just let me know and I can tell you, oh, we use this and we use that. Like even the Chicago popcorn mix, we use like mac and cheese mix and the O Canada. No joke. It's like the sweet and the creamy. It's weird, but we have all these weird concoctions that consultants share. And then we just go, oh yeah, that would totally make it that way. So you've got that, and that's prepped. I don't know how quickly you guys do that. It can also be made, by the way, this super easy into a cheese ball. No joke. So if you want, wash your hands really good, take some gloves, roll it into a ball. And the other option is you can roll it in more of the dip mix, or there's the everything bagel dip mix or sprinkle that we have. So you can roll it in that if you want to roll it in, crushed nuts, if you're not, if you're okay with allergies and things like that. So you can do it in crushed nuts. So you can actually take this and make it into like a cheese ball for all those parties that we're going to have in the future. So that's another thing. So you're going to have that, you're going to have your cream cheese, and then we've got about, let's see what the timer says. Let's see what it says. We got a minute left. So I'm going to just double check, and then you guys are off to the races to go, hey. So with eggs, it's a little bit more difficult to test the doneness, only because eggs actually cook at a lower temperature than meats. That protein, it just coagulates actually quicker and faster. So even if you're cooking eggs on the stove, you don't need to turn it up to high. If you want, like me, I turn it up to high to get that heat as high as possible. Turn it down to medium. You'll be very surprised. You'll get less, a very softer egg, less rubbery or hard egg, or it won't burn as quickly on the stove because just the way that eggs are in the proteins and the fats that are in it, it cooks at a lower temperature. So you're gonna see, hopefully you guys are gonna try to take it out. I'm gonna show you kind of once it cools off a tiny bit. If this was a cake, I'd still let it sit for like, for example, 5 minutes at least. It's gonna rest. It's still cooking as we talk. So we're gonna kind of let it go. And then once it's about like, stop. It doesn't like me, there we go. So once it's done, then you can actually make sure, cool it. So you're probably gonna need about 15 minutes to cool it. at least, but it's still cooking. So if it's still kind of puffed up and it's going to start shrinking down, once it's down, still let it stay for at least another 5 to 10 minutes. It'll still be warm when you cut into it, but you're going to do it into squares. So with an 8-inch, what I would highly suggest is, and I don't do this in the steamer, so this is why I wait till it's cool. You pop it out. If you have a metal dish, that's a-okay. It'll be like safe with sharps. But if you actually cut this, you're basically going to end up with a hole in the bottom of it. So I highly suggest not using any knives, but I'm going to wait till it pops out. But I have a little weird tool that they were kind of featuring. There's different ones. So they had this weird knife thing that they had for like 1 month to try it out. I don't know what happened, but they didn't bring it out. So they kind of test out things. But you can actually use our 3-in-1, which it's not a knife. And so what I do is I actually do, I don't know if anybody else does this, but I do this. So I actually cut once here. So we're going to pretend this is done. But if I don't, once I wait, it's not going to set properly. But I'm going to just show you. I'm going to go down the bottom, like so, down this, just one that way. And then I'm going to do across. And then you have that 4. But then you're going to go down and cut out kind of like the sides that way. That's how I get the evenest kind of squares when it comes to making that. I do kind of a cross first in the middle, then I go to the one side and the other side, and that means I'm not doing this. Then you know how you end up with a big chunk on the side or a little chunk. I figured this out because I used to do this in baking all the time. Like, this is a bad idea. How do I get this more even? Go in the middle, make the middle, and then go to the side and make that, and half that, half on the bottom, half on the top. So you use those as kind of more guidelines to go, it's a little less, uneven. So that's what you're going to do. You can use kind of like silicone things, but if you don't, pop it out. If you have a metal thing, you're going to wait about 5 more minutes. The other thing about this is that, yes, you can reheat these. So you can pop them in the fridge, a-okay. And then when you heat it, you might actually have a little bit of moisture coming out. That is normal for every kind of recipe with eggs. I don't know if you guys have ever reheated eggs, but it's called syneresis. It'll start spreading the water out when you do go to reheat it, but they're super good cold as well. So if you've ever had kind of like a brunch or you make it and then you're like, oh, the next day, super good for your lunchbox. But if you want to have it for the next day as like kind of a breakfast or breakfast sandwich, you can just put that between English muffins as well. Super awesome. I just like it because it's actually just, you can grab it, right? And you can also do this without the crust on the bottom. Okay, so that kind of gives a little bit more stability. But if you just want the egg, you can absolutely do this. And they basically call it like a frittata, right? That's it. So you're good for it. And they still, in my opinion, I still think they're really good for like kind of takeaway lunch boxes and, going around, as well as picnics and things like that. I like them cold. The only other thing I would, me personally, add to this, I like cheese chive and bacon, or if you have bacon bits, throw that in there. And now you have bacon in it. So you can do that. You can do other things where it comes to like chopped bell peppers very finely and sprinkle them in instead of the spinach or with the spinach. So if you load up on too many vegetables, that egg's not going to kind of keep it all bind together. But other than that, it's super hot, but I'm going to cut into this and you're going to just excuse that it's going to be kind of a little bit wonky. So you guys can wait, but I'm just going to give you a show to make sure you guys know this. The only other option is if you have, really hungry adults, you can just cut it into 4. So there you go. There's that 4, as you can see there. I'm going to just do that second little layer. Wish you were a little bit cooler because then I wouldn't have some moisture dripping out of you. But I'm just going to do this and get that going. Once it cools down a little bit more. If you want, there's nothing wrong with cooking it for longer. It might, dry out, depends on your oven. So you're going to have to kind of test out the theory of 35 to 40 minutes. I start at 30, add a little bit in, and then I've got all these little lines. I don't know if you can see more of them. It's hard to tell with all the cheese. Cheese, please. And I'm just going to go around. And if you have parchment paper, there you go. Let's set that down right there. So as you can see, I'm going to give you a little bit of it's super hot, it's steaming. So you've got the base, you've got the cheese, the eggs, very high protein. You've got the spinach, which is high in fiber and iron. Just so you know, spinach actually has iron. So they'll say it's this much iron. Because it's a vegetarian or vegan source, you get about 50% of the bioavailability. So if it says, you know, spinach has this much, our body, we're not ruminants, so we usually don't eat as much vegetables, but we can't convert it as well into iron, but we do. So it's about 50%. So if you're ever wondering, like they just say generally spinach has this much, you can say, I know at least my body's probably gonna absorb about 50% of that listed. So sometimes the nutrient, what it has in it might not be exactly what you're absorbing, but I like this because it's iron and it's fiber, and you're supposed to have a green and orange vegetable every day. Did you know? So there's your other tidbit of the fun stuff. So if you let it sit longer, it will kind of set more, but I just wanted to give you guys a little look. So you have your 3-onion cooking class, you've got your green beans, you've got either your cheese spread or your cheese ball, as well as you can use this on annijitos and pinwheels. And on a tortilla, roll it on up, slice it, awesome, appy, awesome. So when you're like nibbling, super nice and hot. And by the way, the only way to bake it, like an anijito, is in the oven, 450 on parchment paper or one of our silicone liners. And you're gonna kind of slice it like pinwheels, keep it on its seam, and then it's just each 10 minutes, that's it. It's pretty much vegan, already cooked, because you have that flavor, and then you can have that ooey gooey goodness, just in like little bites with tortillas. Super awesome. Does anybody have any questions? Absolutely, and totally do the anijito, and I have my own recipe too. So I'll give you what I do and then what the website one does as well. Does anybody else have any questions? We're good to go? Okay, perfect. Hopefully you guys enjoy your meal. Let your eggs like cool down a little bit more and it'll kind of set better. Yeah, it was nice seeing you guys, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Bon appetit.
Bye, thank you.
Bye. I'll just let everybody kind of bow out, and I'm gonna go eat too. Do, 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 do. And we're gonna make sure